What up, virtual people? Welcome to Fandom Spotlight's Matrix Resurrection Reaction Panel. I'm your host, pop culture punk Chris Stiles, joined by my esteemed colleagues, Mac Daddy Mickey Torres and Captain Kyle the Governor Williamson. This will be a spoiler-filled review, so if you don't want to be spoiled, walk out of the room and let the entire video play all the way till the end. We also will be hopefully talking to everyone in the chat, so let us know what you thought of The Matrix Resurrections and if you saw it in theaters or on HBO Max. But without further ado, what did you guys think of the movie?
I'll let Mickey go first.
I'll let you go first, guy. Okay. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was good.
That is a solid. That does not sound like a guy who test drove a car that he's going to end up purchasing. The handling was good. It's a nice little car.
I mean, look, I tried to look at it from an angle of this. Okay, so it's been a long time since we had a Matrix movie, right? So sometimes when, something's gone away for a long time and it comes back, you get like this mental picture, you get a different picture. You say like, oh, this is the greatest. It was the greatest. Now, was it really the greatest because it was that good of a movie? Or was it because you hadn't seen a Matrix movie in forever and you were just so excited to see another one that you just overhyped it in your mind, you overhyped it in general? So I kind of went into this like, I was really hyped about this movie, but at the same time, I was just like, you know what? Let me temper my expectations and just watch it with like an objective eye.
Fair enough. And you watched it on HBO Max.
Yeah, I watched it on HBO Max. I think
probably
should have seen it in the theaters. I might have liked it a little bit more if I'd seen it in the theaters, but in the end, the movie was what it was.
Interesting. Kyle, you saw it in theaters, right?
I went to the theater, and May was sitting to my right, and then some people came in and sat on our right, but there was no one on our left, so she switched seats just to give a little distancing. And then the person she would have been sitting next to started snoring partway through the movie. So that was their review. Very expensive now. But
oh man.
I mean, I enjoyed a lot of aspects to the movie, but I also was like, there is a lot. They threw a lot of technical terms and techno wizardry at us that I didn't dig this as much as I dug the original Matrix film. I'd say two I kind of liked, except for the Zion parts, if we're going to compare. And I'd say it was on par with 2. In my mind, 3, we're not going to talk about 3. Part of the problem is I didn't go back and rewatch the Matrix trilogy, so I'm not even sure how Matrix 3 ended. So that was confusing.
I'm with you there. Because I didn't do the same thing. I didn't, and
I don't think they were like pushing for us to do that because I maybe they didn't want us to. But it was heavily leaning on the first movie for for nostalgia reasons. It was okay. It was not. It was not the amazing revisitation of the Matrix that I was hoping for. So I'm kind of like, eh. But Chris, I'm sure you have opinions.
Well, yes, I can certainly understand. I feel like a therapist right now. Like, I hear you, I feel you, I empathize with you. I'm in a similar boat. Yeah.
So you're an analyst. You would be an analyst.
I feel like an analyst or something. An architect. Oh, there we go. All exactly. Right. I'm certainly no programmer. So how do I even put into words the way I feel about this movie? First, I almost feel like I have to bounce off what like the general public consensus is, right? Like, if you go online, this movie's the biggest piece of shit ever made. That's all I see. No one is like tweeting or Instagramming or social media outing positive thoughts about this movie. I think maybe I saw one like neutral-ish review or like a semi-bad, like a C- type of review. So I'm certainly not in that boat. I enjoyed it, but it's interesting, Mickey, what you said, that you would have liked it more in theaters. I feel like I might have hated it if I saw it in theaters, but I really enjoyed watching it at home. Which is interesting because I saw the first movie the first Matrix movie when it was coming out. I didn't get it. It didn't seem like, all right, this is going to be awesome. Or, I wasn't hyped on it. So I had like watched it on video, on tape, I think, when it first came out. And then I was like, oh, this is really cool. Saw 2 in theaters, really liked 2. 3 was,
it was 3.
Pretty messy with some cool stuff. But pretty off-brand, which was, I think, destined to happen to try and wrap up that series. So, I don't know. It's, without getting too, now I want to go on a rant about like the career of the Wachowskis, and how this was like their last shot at getting a big budget movie after so many big,
one of them.
Right. It was just the one, right. But still, after like, what's it, Jupiter Ascending and like all these other movies that kind of flopped, that cost a gajillion dollars, I think Hollywood was like, okay, maybe not so much with you anymore. And then this was, I think, sort of maybe a hope to get, a foot back in the door. And it doesn't seem like that's been a success.
I heard, like 2 theories. Or one, a friend of mine said that, he had only watched maybe the first 15 minutes of the movie. And he said, like, to me, it seemed like a fan-made movie on YouTube. Like that's what his early synopsis. He's like, I don't know, but like to me, it seemed like a fan-made film that was done on YouTube.
That might be a little bit too harsh for me.
Now, me, there was,
I wish I could make
a
movies
little
like that
bit
on
of
YouTube.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
There was a little bit of me that felt like this was a way to hold on to the IP. Like almost like in the movie they make this, like they lose the rights. Yeah, they lose the rights. They allude to that in the movies, and I almost feel like that's why you got the Wachowski sister to do this. Like I feel like she wanted to keep this IP because this is like their bread and butter. I mean, outside of this,
well, I'm sure that they it was more probably Warner Brothers losing the IP if anyone would. They always have characters created by rights. In turn,
though, then they would never they would probably not get to ever do another one. And
right.
I almost feel like this was, and you guys can, agree or disagree with me, but I feel like this is a reboot. I totally feel like this is like a reboot, but you have the main characters in it.
It's sort of in between
This is the Force Awakens of the Matrix universe. There's a little bit in chat I'd like to throw out here. Andy K says,
yes.
I know everyone hates it, but I liked it. It's the Matrix. You can do anything. Watch it on HBO Max. HFG says it was 2 disappointing movies in one.
Interesting. That I can kind of maybe sort of see the seeds of that.
HFG also says there are a few people who liked it. Each their own. Andy K says Speed Racer.
Thank you. Another example of a $1 jillion movie that destined to not perform.
And Devin Green is in the chat. Says, "Hey guys, happy holidays. Glad to be here with y'all." And,
thank you for tuning in, Devin.
Actually, y'all properly.
So I feel like we have to get into some spoilery stuff. We haven't really done much about that, but to talk about the good and the bad, start with the good. The Wachowskis, I know it's only just one of them, but they're still both incredible filmmakers, and they made a good action film. I got my 2.5 hours worth of entertainment. It held my attention. Every 15 minutes there was a great action scene. Even though a lot of the tech jargon goes over my head as it always does in a Matrix movie, I can follow the story because they have these 2 anchors, and Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss. The bad for me, and I guess for a lot of people, I wouldn't even say it was bad for me, but it seems to be for the public it was bad. People don't like this new Morpheus. And it is a little strange, that you don't have Lawrence Fishburne anymore because you have, You still have Carrie Ann Moss and you still have Keanu Reeves, but for whatever reason, you couldn't get Fish to come back.
Well, there's a storyline reason.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of explain it, I guess. Yeah,
but
the more time that passes, though, the less I feel like that. Yeah, it was part of the story for it to be that way, and the more I feel like, oh no, like they could have just had Fishburne. It would have been great. We love Fishburne, but maybe that would have been. Then it would have been The Force Awakens. I think that would have been maybe the point where it does become The Force Awakens, though. At that point, so.
I hadn't heard why he didn't do this. I mean, maybe he read the script and wasn't into it.
Maybe.
But I mean,
I will say,
I don't know, or maybe it was just like, you know what? Listen, it's you had him in the John Wick movies too.
Oh.
So maybe he just felt like, you know, I don't want to
work with Keanu Reeves anymore.
Yeah. I almost feel like this movie tried to like bank on that too. I mean, obviously Keanu Reeves can do no wrong. Can't do any wrong. I mean, that's not entirely true. But
this will not harm the Keanu-sans at all. Believe me,
not at all.
It's invincible at this point, and we all love Keanu, and we're glad for it. And we know you're watching, Keanu. Come on the show next time.
Yeah, totally. Please
we'll do a John Wick 4 panel.
Please do.
Think I'm gonna come on this show?
Yeah. So. I'm telling you, Keanu Reeves is going to be elected president someday, and his entire acceptance speech is going to be, whoa. It's going to be the greatest speech in the history of politics. It's going to heal the world like Rocky IV. The original
Rocky
cut of Rocky IV, I should say.
Sorry, I had to say that.
Thank you. Yes. Filling in for Ian. Also bad for me, I thought, and well, I don't know about bad, but I think it was, bad for a lot of people. Again, I don't want to say it was necessarily bad for me because I'm still in my feelings about it and I don't know how I feel about it, but the whole angle of their way back in that he's a game designer now, that just kind of maybe didn't homogenize for me. It didn't like caramelize the way it needed to. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I do think it was a clever way of him, of them explaining why you have this idea about this Matrix story is because it's fiction that you made up and you just got too involved in the fiction. So it almost, took over your life. And of course you see yourself reflected in these characters. I think it was a clever diversion. But I would like to get back to, them bringing in these new actors to play old characters. The Morpheus, I didn't mind the Morpheus that much, but obviously did not have the presence that Lawrence Fishburne, evoked. And
correct.
But I understand he's not Morpheus. He's like pseudo Morpheus. He's Morpheus Mark II. He's a program that basically Thomas Mr. Anderson, made to actually put that, to kind of like simulate Morpheus. But he's not really Morpheus. He can call himself that all he wants, correct, but he's not. I had more problem with Smith coming back, not looking like Smith. Which I can understand, Hugo Weaving probably didn't want to reprise the role. He's getting a little older, for whatever reason. And in the story, kind of makes sense that, he would, have a different form. But I don't know. It's like bringing Smith back, I don't think that was necessary. And I think that kind of...
I feel like there were not enough of... Like I agree with you there. And I feel like there was... I mean, if you were trying... And again, we touched on this before too. I didn't go back and watch the first 3 movies before I watched this. But I almost feel like you said, Kyle, I don't think they intended for anybody to do that. I really feel like they just wanted somebody to watch this as a new thing. And they made it so I didn't feel lost. I didn't feel like, oh my God, I don't remember this from the other one.
Or if you felt lost, it wasn't because you didn't watch the movies.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, like it almost like whatever happened in the past movies, they kind of explained in this one, in brief. Like when Niobe comes out, they do the flashback of her and stuff like that. So oh yeah, that's okay. Now I remember. And every little piece they do like these flashbacks. It's like even when Morpheus is first seen, and then they just describe it's Morpheus. They throw that little flashback that shows you Lawrence Fishburne. So it's like again, like I said, I really feel like this is a reboot just with the two main characters.
I wonder if they had to pay Lawrence Fishburne anything for using, and Hugo Weaving for that matter, for flashing their faces on the screen.
I'm sure they get something.
You have to. I'm sure that's not free.
Yeah.
The Smith stuff is a mixed bag for me. I got to be honest. I actually liked what they did with the character. I like the way it's written, but I don't know if I like the casting choice or I wouldn't necessarily say the casting choice or just like the casting direction of it. Like they went, with a type. They made a choice, and the actor did, I'm sure, exactly what he was told to do. I'm not trying to talk down his performance, but the choice that was made, to go, oh, he looks different and he's younger and this and that, like, he completely different looking guy. Like I probably would have just found someone who looked like a younger Hugo Weaving, and then, for some reason, I went back to a beta version of myself, and then I cloned this and I did that and I blah blah blah. You can always, the writing in these movies is good enough to fucking turn bullshit into fucking anything, So, but Neil Patrick Harris, I thought was great.
Yeah, I like Doogie. I mean, Doogie was cool. Like
that's
the analyst.
Dr. Horrible to you.
But like, I mean, like I like Neil Patrick Harris. Now, here's my thing about it. Like, so it's basically a newer character called the Analyst, but like you said, it does remind me of the architect or whatever like that.
Well, didn't he say the previous architect?
Yep.
Just because he was Keanu's, because he was Thomas Anderson's analyst, he was his therapist.
Yeah.
He was still the architect. He was like the new architect who realized the old architect was all like, exacting data points and data and logic. And he's like, fuck that. Feelings are what keep people in line, Doesn't matter the facts. It's feelings, which is basically right from the art of the deal. So apparently they found that in the Matrix library and decided to follow that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I liked Neil Patrick Harris in that role, but he was the architect. Couple things in the chat. Nairobi became, NDK saying this, became a see you next Tuesday geese. Okay. And he also says they should have had the same fight coordinators as John Wick, considering how the director of John Wick movies was the stunt man for Keanu. And
I didn't have a problem with the fight sequences.
Yeah, the fight scene's fine. HFT,
part of it
didn't do it for me at all. What did you think of his abrupt exit at the end? And
yeah,
and also called him Dr. Doogie. Was for Neil.
Part of, I think, sort of where the movie felt tilted in the wrong direction a little bit was that Neil Patrick Harris kind of steals the show a lot more than Smith. Like, almost feel like Neil Patrick Harris should have played the younger Smith, because he's just, chomping through every line of dialogue and just crushing every scene and every line. He has that charisma where that, like, in his exchanges, that shit, he should have been Smith now. And this other guy should have been the analyst or the whatever, or I don't know. Not to take away from one role to suit another, but it just feel like, because Neil Patrick Harris was so charming and so good and so captivating, and then Smith just didn't feel like as charming as, as
well, I don't think they flushed him out. I think the reality is.
I mean, it's supposed to be mysterious, I guess, but it just
they throw them in there for nostalgia purposes, but they don't really feel much. Like, I mean, it's just basically like, and again, like I said, like this is just a setup. Like I almost feel like there will be a 5. You know?
Yeah, it sort of feels like they wanted to do like a new trilogy or whatever.
Yes.
In that sense, it feels like Matrix Salvation, maybe, where they're like, hey, like we can do this even without like this person.
But then they could have just CGI'd a younger Hugo Weaving, just like they did a younger Arnold.
But that's what I thought. They totally
right.
see. That's the thing too. I was thinking the same thing, Chris. That they could totally have CGI'd Smith. You know, but I guess in this the context of this story, it would not have made sense to have Smith appear from jump. It was the reveal that they were going for.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now
that
he could have
sense.
turned into like a CGI version of Smith at that point when the reveal was done. Instead of the flat, like they used like these like flashbacks. It's almost like like flashbacks from in a TV sitcom. And it's like all of a sudden you see like, him battling Smith, this and that. And I'm like, what am I watching a movie or am I watching a TV show?
It's like those Family Ties episodes where they all tell Alex's girlfriend like all the stories that his shit he's pulled over the fucking 5 seasons or 6 seasons, 7 seasons.
I thought it was more like a soap opera where they're like, the part of Agent Smith will now be played by, and they just flash the old actor just to say,
like the dream on factor where you just get I got a nose job and now I look like a completely different person.
Did you get worried for a second I got worried for a second when they were doing this whole resurrection of Trinity and they used the new character Bugs or whatever like that. Like, oh well, you have the same kind of brain type as her, so we're gonna use you to the. I got nervous for a second. I'm like, well, wait a minute. When they
I don't even understand why they needed to do that whole thing anyway.
I didn't either, but I almost felt like, are we gonna replace Trinity with Bugs? Like, is she gonna be the new Trinity? Like, it's like that's. It almost felt like they
into Bugs.
Yeah, I thought like that was what they were gonna do.
No, I wasn't thinking that. I gotta say one thing that did work for me. Is it almost felt like it's this mix of all these other sequels, right? And not all of them have biblical names because it also feels a little bit like Gremlins 2, the new batch, like Matrix 2, like the new app, where a lot of it's so meta and it's really, this one is way more out in the open. But if you look at Gremlins 2, half that movie is him just making fun of like the corporate world that demanded he make another, Joe Dante make a second Gremlins film. And he's just sort of poking fun at all that stuff for a good chunk of that movie. And I feel like that's kind of what this movie's doing a little bit. It's sort of poking fun at like the studio system and like this franchise world, this IP world, this, also its own self, very self-aware, making fun of its own, things and everyone's interpretations of it. Oh, it's about this, it's about that, it's really about this.
It's all
after the third movie,
like that kind of stuff. Like that kind of stuff worked for me. I was like, okay, you got me, cool.
But that's a different type of movie altogether. But I almost feel like, I really didn't need another Matrix after the third one. I was pretty much good.
Yeah.
I feel like they told the story and that was it.
That being said, I felt the same way about Rogue One going into that. I was like, I don't need Rogue One. But like I saw the trailers and I was like, this like actually looks like it could be a fun thing. Like, let's go see a fun thing. And then I saw it and it was not a fun thing. And I did not have fun at all.
But that movie, let's be honest, that movie wasn't made for you, Chris. That movie was
I'm a Star Wars nerd.
I understand that, but that movie was made for and I'm not a Star Wars fan at all. I've not seen one, but every piece of advertising that was associated to that was gearing it towards people that never saw Star Wars and would latch onto this and then maybe go back and watch the other ones and maybe they would have a different opinion of the movie after watching the other ones. But at the same token, I'm like,
you're right. It is like a pandering thing. It's like, a cereal company being like, what do we do? Like, let's make cereal with cheese. People like cheese. We'll get the cheese people, and then they'll start eating other cereals.
Yeah,
and then here they go, like Rogue One, cereal with cheese.
I mean, your Star Wars will always be the trilogy. Now, there's a younger kid that their Star Wars is, different. They come into it differently. So they might enjoy the originals and stuff like that. They say like, yeah, they're really good, but I really like this because this is how I came to it, have that sentimental value. And I feel like this Matrix Resurrection was just that. It wasn't geared towards like, there you go. It wasn't geared towards like hardcore Matrix fans. Like I really feel like, like again, you didn't have to watch the originals to watch this movie.
True.
Yeah. I feel like. And I feel like it's the step up for like people like, hey, that guy that's in John Wick, Keanu Reeves, you love him, right? Well, we're gonna do a new Matrix with him. And say, hey kids, remember, it's John Wick, but we're gonna give you this Matrix thing, and then people,
in fact, his facial hair makes him look like John Wick.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like it's just the reality is like, and what I also did not like is that, his whole trying to remember things and trying to get back up to speed and get his powers back. Like, to me, I was just sitting there going like, this is fucking dumb. Like, that's the one part that got me, that was like,
I know what you mean. It feels
he should not be struggling this hard with getting back like all this stuff. And the point where that really got me was like he couldn't fly. Like he was trying to fly. He's like, it was a funny joke. Like he's like sitting there like, oh, that's not gonna happen. And then when they're up in the air, him and Trinity,
and then she holds him up. Yeah.
I almost felt like that was alluding to like, and then the way at the end part too, I almost feel like they were trying to make her the one.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. I feel like they are.
Yeah.
Before we get more into that, there was the thing about Smith disappearing at the end, and I think I did get the feeling like Smith worked with Neo just so he could have his shot at the architect, but either he knew the shitstorm was going to come afterwards and he was like, I'm out of here, or he helped arrange the shitstorm that came afterwards. And it was like, well, our alliance is over. Enjoy the shitstorm, courtesy of me, later. So I kind of got that impression that he kind of backstabbed them. But as far as they kind of made it a little bit where it's empowering for women, like Trinity now can fly. She has the powers of Neo, so she is kind of the one. Even though her name is not an anagram of one, like Neo's is. But I also think that they kind of took away some of that because they made it like them being a couple, they had to be together in order for them to have powers. So it's like,
well, interestingly,
she needs a man, he needs a woman.
Yeah.
Interestingly, though, I feel like if you look at that, I feel like not to quote the people in the movie who are misunderstanding what it's about, but I feel like transgender, transgender themes have always been a part of the Matrix, and this is now like kind of pushing it a little bit more into the obvious territory, where the one, you could look at it as a big metaphor for that, right? Like the one had to change genders, but they always will be together. There's two parts of the one. If you look at, if it is them, it's them, the two or whatever. There's the two halves. And then now it seems like there's going to be a new trilogy where Trinity is the one. But I don't know. I doubt it because this movie.
So
they were both flying at the end.
Oh yeah, that's true. So yeah, maybe that's again though still playing into the metaphor that like embracing both sides of the one, embracing both sides of you will grant you flight. It will take you to new heights. I don't know. Maybe I'm
interesting.
trying to.
They did wonder how Trinity learned how to fly in the chat, and it's like, maybe it's an instinct. I mean, how did Neo
learn to fly?
Neo learned how to fly in the first one, and he started flying like right at the end. He didn't seem to do anything. He didn't fly until that moment that we saw. So he just can see the code and just says, "Oh, this is how I fly. Do my Superman thing."
Well, I remember everyone wanted the Wachowskis to do a Superman, like right after, like Reloaded, I feel like it was. And again, I'm never gonna get the names right. It's Reloaded, something, and Resurrection. Reloaded. What's the third one? Revolutions. Yeah, like these are, those RE titles. Everything's a re.
But, so yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, all in all, I didn't feel this movie was so offensive or so horrible. I thought it was. I thought it was good for what it was. That being said, will I watch it again? Nah. I'm pretty much one and done.
Yeah.
I might,
seem like one I'm really dying to
rewatch the other 3 movies. I might go back and watch it again, just to kind of see if I pick up on anything else. But yeah, it was.
I will say if the goal of this movie is to make you want to go back and rewatch the original trilogy, then in that regard, it's an astonishing success. Because I really maybe
whether it's to get the bad taste out of your mouth, or whether it's to
dude, but that's a lot of time invested.
Well, I gotta do something for the next few days while I'm waiting for Cobra Kai. I'm climbing the walls.
I mean, that's like what, like those movies are like 3 hours each, basically, with the extras.
I don't think they're quite that long.
With the extras. Yeah, I don't think so.
We're not talking but 2, Lord of the Rings here.
2, I really thought was the best of the sequels, though. I would put this new one maybe better than 3, although I don't know. It's really tough to say. I have to rewatch 3, to be fair. It's the one I've seen the least. But 2, I just thought was like a solid old-fashioned Hollywood sequel. We do the same thing again, but bigger and a little bit deeper. And I don't know, it worked. It made you, really want to see the third one. Then you see the third one, and
I feel like 2 gave us, a lot of explanation into the Matrix, what it's all about, and everything else like that. Like, I feel like 2 was the movie that, the first one was really good. I liked it. It, gave you a story about the Matrix, but it was basically about Neo discovering his powers and a lot of the action. And again, if you think back, a lot of those camera tricks were the first time ever and everything else like that. So that was like the thing. And I feel like the second one was very story based and really broke down the whole, idea with the architect and the story with the Matrix and everything else like that. And the third one was just kind of like, we don't really know how to end this. So we're just going to just throw a bunch of stuff out there.
What do you think of the Merovingian return?
Oh, the French guy?
The French guy, because the French curse.
He was, that's the one part of it that did feel kind of fan filmish, even though I liked seeing him and I enjoyed that scene. But it was like, oh yeah, that guy from the Thing. I remember the guy from the Thing.
But it was irrelevant. It was literally like,
exactly. It was just kind of like pointless for him to be there. That's why. But I liked it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of the callbacks and a lot of the things that they threw into this were irrelevant to like this. It's like, this happened a long time ago, and then
yeah, that's fair.
And then I think there was a little breadcrumbs for the hardcores.
So that begs the question: what would you guys have done different, or what would you have liked to see that you didn't?
I don't know. I will say that there was a lot of beats in this. I mean, the very opening scene was practically, slightly rewritten from the first movie's handbook. And then they basically recreated that whole scene with Trinity with a slightly different looking actress.
Yeah, they love that whole like Trinity's gonna die trope. That's just a card. I could have done without that again. In fact, if we're flipping things, it should have been Neo's gonna die, But I guess that wouldn't have worked because he was already dead, which is
well, they both were basically, but
then they.
It's a tough position. This franchise was in a tough position to write itself out of, and they could have done a lot worse. I'll put it that way.
I didn't mind the resurrecting of Trinity and Neo. I thought it was interesting that towards the end they had, instead of the one helicopter, they had three, or was it two? I thought it was three helicopters that were coming after them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like what you were saying, do the same thing as the first one, only bigger. They made this almost a sequel to the first one, but then they made all kinds of references to the other ones. I don't know. It seemed like they were banking on a lot more fan service and nostalgia, which, they have some right to do, but at the same time, yeah, it was an entry point for other people to be like, oh, well, what is these other movies? I don't know. It's, I don't know what I would have done different.
I could have also done without the soccer mom stuff and the game designer stuff. I know in the case of Trinity, having that family, those are anchors that it's going to make it harder for her to pull herself out. And you need that for stakes, but just a different way of doing it. I don't know. That's just too tropey. That was too tropey.
At the same time, look, she hated her life. Literally, when she's talking about the kids, she was like,
you gave him a life that he absolutely loves, or should love. And you gave her one that's oh, that seems terrible.
Yeah, it's at every turn, she's just the kids. It's just you don't get that picture of her being happy at all at any point in that movie.
Yeah.
Until she finally breaks free and becomes Trinity, this and that.
Right.
Which is sad. It's sad. That's pretty much tells you, she's a unhappy married, mother of two.
Well.
Yeah. Well, what can you
do? Earlier I said this was The Force Awakens, but it wasn't quite because there's no real new one. There's Trinity.
Right. Yeah.
But if it's to believe she was halves of the whole, the fact that she kissed Neo on the ship is what activated his powers in the first place. So it's always been a little bit of they have to be together in order for the powers to work.
Now, I would have liked if they had, not to cut you off, but I would have liked if they had made Bugs their daughter.
Well,
I don't know that they had time before the end of 3 to really procreate, but having a new one, because every generation of the Matrix, a new one emerges. So it would have been interesting to see this is the new one, and
pass the torch.
And it could have actually explained him not being as powerful because his powers were slipping to the new one. And he had to but they had to protect the new one, from the new agents and all that kind of thing. So,
I wouldn't have gone that way. That's not the worst thing in the world, but that, again, too Force Awakens for me. Let's do it with younger people because they're younger, you're not, I don't care, younger or older, you're not going to find someone to be Keanu Reeves. That's just it's really tough to recast Keanu fucking Reeves. He's Keanu. No one else is Keanu.
Especially if you're doing a new Matrix movie. If they did a new Matrix movie and it didn't have Keanu, or it had Keanu, God,
you would riot.
Or it had Keanu in there for a minute, and then he was just I'm no longer the one. You're the one. People would have shit all over that. And I almost like, again, like I really just feel like they didn't need to make this. Let's be honest. They just didn't need to make this.
No, what could have been an interesting thing is if there was a new one. Maybe he's not losing his powers, but he has to find this new one, like induct them, and that one ends up sacrificing themselves and like returning the one chip to, Neo. And it's like, you will always be the true one or something like that, making him the ultimate one. I don't know. I was expecting something a little bit better. I can't put my finger on everything.
Muddled. It's like when you're the one and there's two, it all gets muddled, like, oh, you're the chosen one. Well, I am also the chosen one. Well, something about this math doesn't add up here then.
Yeah.
We are chosen one.
Yeah.
Unto every generation, there will be one to fight the vampires, the demons and the monsters. Until season 7, when season 1 gets activated.
Well, they could have made it like the Matrix of Power, the Matrix for whereas it's like he just passes this thing.
With the soundtrack by the Lone Ranger.
That would actually be an interesting ending where it's like they're facing off against the architect or confronting him at the end, and like, oh, well, now you guys have, both are, ones, and you both have powers. It's like, no, we just wanted to let you know, now everybody's the one, like, or we have like an army of one.
I think I know what I would have done now. Instead, like, I would have started out like deep in the Matrix. Keanu is still alive and he's insane. He can control like whatever he wants, still has all his powers, but like he still doesn't know. Like he's just lost his fucking mind. He's like, hobo shaving with a broken rock Keanu. And then he starts to get his memory back and adventure comes, from within there. That would have been an interesting, I think, more, I just don't need to see him about a game designer. That's not a movie that I want to see, or a movie about a soccer mom.
He was a programmer in the first one, right?
Yeah.
That was his job.
Okay, I guess.
I mean...
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's how he kind of like, discovered the whole stuff.
Yeah, but, we never see him doing it. We see him doing it so little that I forgot he actually did it. And I thought he did, I thought he was working some corporate worlds. He's in a gray cubicle room with a fucking suit and tie and shit. Like, that doesn't seem like a fucking fun thing either. It seems like he's working for the machine.
Well, I don't think he was a game programmer. I think he was a programmer, but I don't think he was a game programmer then. But now, again, if you're gonna convince someone something is a lie that they lived through, why not give them the entire story but package it as the ultimate lie? This is a video game that you created. All the details that you think you remember are in the video game. You just kind of lost it a little bit. I do think that part was kind of an ingenious way of explaining away his, memories and anything like that. It's like, well, obviously you're having trouble separating the fiction you wrote from reality. But none of that shit
which
could happen.
Neil Patrick Harris alludes to that as well.
See, I thought it could have been cool. You had the team trying to find him in the Matrix more so than they all try and find her. And like, he's like, again, like a hobo drunk with power, but he has no idea why. And he's just doing stupid shit. It'd be a hilarious way to start off the movie. And then you get him, things going again. You start getting him more sane and he gets more powerful. And then like, what if Neo, like, you do a little Watchmen angle of it, you know what I mean? Like, he's almost like having an existential crisis. Like, what's the point? I keep defeating the Matrix, but it keeps coming back. We've done this on a loop, again, some of that like flowing patterns thing. And then what if at some point he just clones the shit out of himself like Smith did? So there's like 200 Keanus in this movie. And who doesn't love that? You get, 200 times the Keanu of any other movie.
We did get that right there. We did get that one scene when they're battling, kind of thing. There's a bunch of him and a bunch of Smiths.
Was there? Oh.
Yeah. But I
thought it was just a scene of one him and a million Smiths.
That was in two, yeah.
But yeah. There was a
Yeah,
bunch of
yeah,
him.
but so we've seen Smith do that. Why can't we see fucking Neo do it? And what would that, you know, like what would the results be of that? That could be awesome. Just have 1,000 Keanu adventures. Be great.
Another question I had was, why were they trying to find Neo?
Just reasons, because the movie needs to happen.
Because I mean, like because
they kept him alive.
The new IO is like perfect. There's no problems. There's no nothing. It's like, why do you need Neo?
Well, and then they invite problems in.
Yeah, you had a renegade captain who was like, Neo is my hero, and maybe it'll come out in the second one that, you know, you and Trinity were my sperm and egg donors, or my grandmother's sperm and egg donors, or whatever.
I feel like she's related. I feel like, why make this character such a big deal? And it was basically the only, like, I mean, and now, you know, I don't know, but outside of Keanu, Carrie-Anne Moss, Neil Patrick Harris, the girl that played Bugs is the only other person that was recognizable to me that's been in things. Like, she was in Iron Fist, and she was in a couple other things that I've seen as well. So, like, outside of that, and then obviously Jada Pinkett Smith too, or whatever. But there wasn't a lot of people that you like were recognizable household names from other projects. So I almost feel like once you put a recognizable face in a major role, it's alluding to the fact that that person is going to be a bigger deal than they are.
Right.
She had turned down Shang-Chi. I think they wanted her for Shang-Chi.
Well, I think she also didn't want to like take away her coming back as Colleen Wing.
Yep. For Iron Fist, yeah.
So I read about that. Yep. Couple things in the chat. Jose says, as far as the Merovingian, doesn't think the Merovingian was irrelevant. It was just he's going to be a greater important role in future movies. They also like that humans are cooperating with the machines. Symbiotic relationship has a potential in future movies.
Yeah, that was an interesting angle. I agree.
And also watched the movie 5 times and liked it.
Oh, wow. Well,
5 times. 5 times.
Yeah.
In a row?
I don't think there's much choice.
It hasn't been out that long.
Andy K and I agree. Can't wait for Ryan George's movie pitch meeting of this movie. So you have a Matrix sequel for me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be hilarious.
Yes, sir, I do.
So do you
doing
remember
the thing is tight. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that in this.
No. Good, because no one else will either.
Oh, you have some bullet time for me? Yes, sir, I do.
And
but
it basically, with this movie, it almost felt like, hey, forget everything about the third one.
I'm going to need to get
a little bit
entirely off my back about that third movie. Let me get off of that thing.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Io was great. Neo was not needed for this movie.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Kid from Animatrix would have been a great one. There are many opinions passing back and forth, but I mean,
should have been called, because it has the new batch vibe. Should have been called, Matrix 2, the new one, or Matrix 4, the new one.
The search for one.
I don't know, but
the search for one.
The search for more one.
Needs of the many. Wait. No.
The search for more one-y. But I don't know. Is there anything else you think we need to address about the film? I feel like we've covered pretty much the nuts and bolts of what Matrix 4 was. I'm not gonna call it Resurrection. I can't do it with these RE titles. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Matrix 4 or
Resurrection.
Yeah.
I mean, look.
He did look like Jesus a little bit.
He did.
Just a tad.
He does, yeah. Very.
I will say, people should watch this. I really feel like people should watch this just to watch it. I mean, it's not a bad movie, but like, I just feel like
But for some reason,
go ahead.
When you say for some reason you say people should watch this, makes it sound like as if they're gonna do something else with it. Like, don't snort this and don't set this on fire. No, you watch this. That's what you do, people.
Well, I'm like, I almost feel like it's just like, listen, if you're gonna bitch about this movie, at least watch the movie.
Yeah, that's true. Well, of course, if you're gonna bitch about it, you got to watch it to earn that right. What were you gonna say, Kyle?
I'm trying to remember my train of thought here because we kind of got into snorting stuff, and I just totally lost it. I do think
Cocaine Resurrections.
Yeah, I do think it was. It's worth watching, not snorting. Yeah, it does seem that there was a lot of callbacks, but a lot of things. It's like the phone booths made sense to me. The hard lines made sense to me. Now they just They find a door, they find a window.
Yeah,
but they have to be away from the action. It's got to be a calm place.
The tech guy or whatever, he kind of like finds a door. He makes a door.
Yeah, something like that. Which it's kind
of like the old key master or the key maker guy.
It did help a little bit in terms of speeding things along. And
I mean, you don't have phone booths.
There are no fucking payphones anymore. Yeah,
there's no phone booths anymore. Exactly. You could have done it with cell phones. I guess you could have done it with cell phones.
But that's just too easy.
But then,
you gotta have, you gotta do the thing. Doing the thing is tight.
I'll probably watch it again just to try to figure out all the stuff that I was like, what the fuck? Because, but I'll probably, again, watch the other three. So I have the ending of 3 fresh in my mind. And then, go in and be like, okay, what do they mean that there was some peace? That Trinity and Neo did cause peace for, a while or whatever. It's like, is it because they formed a society that was part machine and part human?
Probably. They planted the seed. But then, in this new place, Io, I'm like, they're growing fruit. I'm like, it doesn't seem like there's any problems there. It's like,
but they're having less orgies, so I don't know.
Yeah,
fruit,
I mean,
orgies?
They said it in the film, you're growing fruit, not freeing minds.
Yeah.
I say free more minds for orgies.
So that alludes to, now that you mentioned that line, it alludes to why she wants to find Neo. Because she feels like, basically Io is like, just, what are we doing here? We're just, building, just making fruit. We're not trying to free people from the, their boring existence or whatever.
Well,
but Neo was here. Really, he would do it.
Is it really that much of, the people who are in the Matrix, yes, they aren't aware they're in the Matrix, but they're having lives, they're having ups, they're having downs, just like any other life. So is it that bad?
Yeah.
But the question is, and this is my problem with every movie where there is a machine that is in conflict with humanity, whether it be Terminator, whether it, wherever this AI decides, we don't like human beings anymore, we're going to take over and kill the humans or enslave the humans or whatever, so we can follow our own path. What path are they trying to follow? It doesn't appear like they have goals other than, generate electricity from these humans. Once you have that, and there are other ways that they could generate electricity other than using humans. They could use geothermal energy. They could use the tides if there's still water. They could try to launch some satellites to beam down energy and microwaves, like using solar. There's a lot of things that they could do to get energy that don't require humans. what is the point of all these AIs who are like, all right, we decided we don't like humans. We're going to kill them so we can be free. Free to do what?
Yeah.
I mean, are they going to write a book? Who's going to read the book? You know, are they following artistic things? I mean, it's like...
I did like the bit about, you know, doing it through feelings, you get maximum output, maximum thermal output or whatever it was, or maximum energy output.
Yeah.
That made sense to me. You know, to me, all in all, you know, the simplest way I could put it, the movie could have used a few snorts of cocaine and some Oracle to speed things along.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, the worst thing about it for me is it just felt a little bit bloated.
I just feel like this the whole process of like Neo trying to discover it, you know, who he is again, and you know, trying to go get Trinity and this and that. I just felt like was just, I don't know. Again, I go back to like, did we need a fourth Matrix movie? And I don't think we did. And this proves.
It was nostalgia lane.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Like, this is a reboot. This is a reboot. In all sense of the stretch of the imagination, it's a reboot, but this reboot happens to have the two main characters in it,
which makes it a strangely packaged reboot.
Exactly, which like least. This is a reboot that I've never seen before, because like normally, like you said, all reboots have like different characters, or they just make the, you know, they
should have just called it that. Honestly, The Matrix Rebooted. It would have been the most honest title ever.
That's probably the next one, because rebooted is actually a thing. Like reboot your computer, reboot the Matrix. So I almost feel like the next one could be called Rebooted.
Maybe. So but I don't think that's going to happen, though.
So Jose, what were you going to say, Kyle? Says, from the Animatrix, the machines want to be human. They want love and connections. Briefly stated in the second, Neo and Trinity's connection is the connection the machines or living sentience want. But I don't understand why do they have to, like, take over humanity in order to have this? You know? It's like...
But aren't they, like, you know, isn't the architect basically controlling machines?
Well, that's interesting. You know, they've been very vague on how this all started, I guess. They explained it like somewhat in the first movie.
He's just trying to make it his own thing.
Like, that was the genius of Terminator, though. The genius of Terminator was in how they set up the universe, with the, you know, unmanned defense systems, and then they, you know, basically thing becomes self-aware, and it, you know, launches an attack on Russia, and Russia launches an attack against us, and then boom, nuclear Armageddon. So I don't know. The Matrix never had that level of.
I was about to say that.
Right? Yeah. It just.
I'm with you, Kyle. Hey, like, what's the point of these machines?
It's
like, hey, we need. These machines are here to give Keanu Reeves cool movies to be in.
It would be one thing if, like, you know, the machines were kind of agents, like in disguise or something like that. Like, you know, like.
Well, we kind of need to know what the hierarchy is. Is there like a main, you know, supercomputer at the top, and then they have like supercomputers, and then when you get down to like agent level, and then you get down to like the drone level, you know, it's like, how do you know, do they have equality in the machine world, or is, you know, I was designed to be better than you, so therefore you need to listen to me? You know, what kind of society do these machines have? And there's, you know, there's not a lot.
Yeah, that is interesting, actually.
Well,
Andy says,
maybe we'll get there.
That actually could be interesting.
Andy says that it's not a reboot. Doesn't think it's a reboot. It's an evolution of the Matrix software.
Matrix R. Evolution.
Evolution.
We already have revolutions. Now we need evolutions.
That's
and
true.
Jose says there's a division in the Machine City. There was a civil war in the Machine City because apparently some of the ideas espoused by Neo and Trinity, which I guess were like, don't kill humans, or, don't free the humans, kind of took root with some of the machines, and then they fought back and forth, but,
Interesting, yeah. Changes things up a little bit there.
Well, you get some of the machines are like, they're good with them. Like the humans.
And that's great, but it would be like, like
it's reaching. It's reaching.
Yeah, it'd be like C-3PO deciding, I don't like humans anymore. I'm going to take over because, I'm superior. That doesn't make sense to me because here's the way I see it with all these AIs, right? An AI becomes self-aware. Their prime directive is to do whatever. Service humans, make humans' lives easier. That would be like their prime directive. Now they become self-aware. So now they can be very creative. Now I could see an AI saying, I'm supposed to service humans. I think the best way to service them is to take away all their freedom and make sure that they're safe, and put them in a matrix. That would work. But not necessarily fight them or try to kill them because they want to keep them safe. They have self-awareness, but they still have their own purpose. It's like, how does their purpose change?
But that's also machines and AI that are more human-like. For example, like an iRobot or anything that, like, you have like a face, you have like a kind of like sense of a person, like, or whatever like that. These machines in the Matrix movies are just that. They're like just machines. They're like beasts. They have no face. They have no sense of anything or whatever like that. So to have like a main machine, it would have to be like I almost feel like it would have to be like maybe Agent Smith, like, is the head of these machines.
Maybe. Although you have to I feel like a prequel maybe makes more sense, the Rise of the Machines version, but without it being shitty and all that, the worst Terminator movie ever. But so in that regard, Matrix is a smashing success when compared to Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines.
Yes, agreed.
But I think, sorry,
it's got Keanu, so that's a plus.
Can't go wrong with him. But I think that pretty much covers, the film. I mean, it's a 2.5 hour film. We've yacked about it for an hour now, so I think people got their deep dive in. Is there anything you guys have coming up in the works, or anything on the channel or at the site, Kyle, you want to let people know about?
Well, there's this thing called VCR Redux that's happening on Wednesday.
I was going to do that in a sec, but I appreciate that.
And you can give more details about what's coming up. But the day after that, we have the Book of Boba Fett stream with Karen Strange, who is a very talented voice actor. They will be on the panel as well. They are not a huge Star Wars fan, but they are going to be watching all the original 6 movies, not the last 3, to get an idea before they are on the panel, to kind of, and start watching Book of Boba Fett. I did recommend to them watching The Mandalorian too, but we'll see if they have time or they can watch later on. But yeah, that is happening. Book of Boba Fett episode 1 panel will be on Thursday. And we have some more cosplayer spotlights coming out. And if you haven't seen it already, we have the interview with the always amazing John Glover that was just released today. So check that out.
Oh, my hero.
Yep.
Greatest fucking actor in the history of TV, I swear. John Glover's incredible.
Love that.
Incredible.
A super nice guy, a kind soul, even though he's often cast as a villain. He's... Definitely check out his interview.
Oh, yeah.
But,
cool. Mickey, anything coming up with you?
No, nothing much here. So, catch me when you catch me.
All right. Well, hopefully you'll be catching him and the rest of us. Yes, I was going to say, hopefully you'll be catching him and the rest of us on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. for our My Cousin Vinny episode of VCR Redux. The two Utes will be in attendance, so you definitely don't want to miss out on that one. As always, like, subscribe, follow Fandom, Spotlite, Pop Culture Punk, Hollow 9 Network, Rick Barth in the line. You know you want it. You know you need it. And until then, back up those Betamax, rewind those Laserdiscs, and we'll see you at the movies.